2019, and this is what I've been waiting for a while, and maybe you guys too. This finally a computer tutorial. So I'm going to get into all the parts once I put them into the computer. So this is the giant case that I bought for about $50. It is actually a relatively cheap gaming computer that you can all buy the parts that I will have in the description. So first thing you need to put in here is the power supply, and the power supply is very important because it powers everything. It powers the motherboard, it powers the graphics card, and I will explain all these things. Alright, so let's get started. So this is the power supply that I bought, and it was very cheap, but that's the point. It's very big, and I have to be very precise when I put it in. The power supply is in. I have to screw it in because it would just fall off otherwise. So this is what one of the screws should look like, and now I'm going to put it in. So that's exactly what I'm going to do for the next 4 screws, and then the power supply will be secured in. The first thing we need to do is put in the motherboard, which is this thing right here. But before we do any of that stuff, we need to locate the standoffs. They're the little yellow things that are here, 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 and here. So we need to put in the motherboard that way, because it's the only way that the screws can actually go in and secure the motherboard. So we want to put in the motherboard. We do want to put in all the other stuff first, and this is the CPU, which basically lets you read everything that's on your computer. It processes everything. So we want to put that in, and it doesn't take very long, and it's very easy, but you have to be extremely careful. There's a thing called thermal paste, and it keeps your CPU from overheating, and it was already applied on this one. So I'll just put it right in. So first, you're going to want to lift up this lever and pull it up and carefully put the CPU in wherever the gold triangle points. And then you put the lever back down, and then you push it all the way under the little bar. And there's normal to feel a little bit of pressure, but that's totally normal. Now we have these things that are called random access memory, or RAM. And that's what I'm going to call them for the rest of the video because it's much easier to say. So to put in these RAM, you first have to lift up this little bar, and then there's a space between where you put in the random access memory and where you don't, so you have to line it up with that, and you stick it in, and it goes in very easily. You just have to push it down until the bar lines up with it, and then it's in. The next thing that I'm going to put in is the CPU cooler, which also is another thing that keeps your CPU from overheating, because your computer won't work without it. CPU cooler, you had to get a back plate and put standoffs on it so you can screw it in, but with Intel, they gave me a CPU cooler that you can just stick it in. It's very easy. Shout out to Intel for giving me such an easy CPU cooler. So now let's put it in. There are designated holes on the motherboard that you have to put in, so you just put it right in there, and then you twist and push down on every side, and it makes it much easier. Okay, now that we've put in all this stuff, we can finally put the motherboard in the case. I'm going to put in the motherboard, and we had to put it on the standoffs because that's very vital to this motherboard survival, because it won't work otherwise. So what you want to do is line up the motherboard with the standoffs, and it's kind of a tight squeeze, but eventually you can get it in. And once you see a yellow outline on all the holes, you know you did it right. Okay guys, so now we gotta secure the motherboard, because you can't have it falling all over the place, because that would literally just break the whole computer, and all this would be for nothing. So now I'm gonna screw it in. I'm just gonna place all the screws in, so then I can just screw it in later, and it won't be a hassle, and I don't actually have to worry about missing it. So I will just do that, and then I will get ready to screw it in. Now we can start screwing in the screws. Alright, this is the first one. Alright, that's 1. That's 2. That's 3. This one's a little harder to see because it's behind everything. But that's 4. It's 5. And that's 6. Now, I've finally done this motherboard. Now we can get on to the really cool stuff. I said cool stuff, I didn't actually mean it. All this stuff is cabling, and it's the most boring part of putting a computer. But since most of it is fun, it kind of pays off. Things I'm going to put in this computer is the HD audio. You plug it into the motherboard. There's one thing that also says AC97, but you should plug in AC audio if you want to have good audio. So this is the USB plug, and everybody has USB plug in your computer, so I just need to plug this into the motherboard, and then that would be functioning when I turn the computer on. Alright, now I've installed the USB plug. Okay, so you should know where these are because it's marked right on the motherboard, and this one right here, there are several pins, and it lines up with this, so you just plug it in. And once you actually get your computer running, it'll work. Also, there are knocked out pins on this one too, so then you know exactly where to put it. Okay. So, this is the USB 3.0 that you plug in. It's what you use for more powerful USBs that are more advanced than most. So this is an SSD. I've talked about this in my previous slideshow, so if you haven't watched that yet, go ahead and do that. But anyway, this is basically a hard drive, but it's a lot smaller and it's a lot faster. So this is what people store their games on, or if you have a Windows software, that's what you would put. This is where you would put it. So to put in the SSD, you have to put it in backwards, and then you turn it around, and you have to put it in the slot that's about right here. So you stick it in, and you line it up with the holes, because that's very vital. And that's what you do. After you lined up the SSD, you have to put in at least one screw. And then you have to screw it in. It'll be a little floppy, but it will stay there, and that's really what's important. And then you can just put in the rest of the screws with no worries. So the hard drive is right here, but it was already pre-installed, so there's no reason to take it out and then put it in again. So this is the SATA data cable, and I have to plug this into the SSD. I didn't just put in another piece of hardware for nothing. This actually requires cabling. Just put it right in there. There we go. Alright, now I have installed the SSD. There's a SATA and a data cable. So you plug the data cable into the motherboard and the SATA cable into just the SSD. This right here is the SATA cable, and this is the data cable. This is right down here is the hard drive, and we need to do exactly the same thing as what we did to the SSD. So plug this in, and then you plug it into the motherboard. Okay guys, this part of the power supply is the thing that powers the whole motherboard, which is extremely vital. Okay, so first I have to plug in this thing. It's a 4-pin, and then you just slowly slide in. You slowly slide in the power connector. So you just put it right in, and now it's stuck in there. So it's pretty hard to get out, so you better hope you did it right. Okay, so first I have to plug in this thing. It's a 4-pin, and then you just slowly slide in. You slowly slide in the power connector. So you just put it right in, and now it's stuck in there. So it's pretty hard to get out, so you better hope you did it right. What I have is the CPU connector. So this plugs into the top of the motherboard, which I'm going to show you in a second. And there are 4 pins, but there are 2 of them just in case you have an 8-pin connector. So now all I need to do is plug this into the 4-pin connector up there. It might be a little hard to see, but I know that I got it done. Alright, it's plugged in. And so now the CPU will be working when I turn on the computer. Okay, guys, so you see right here, these are the fan connectors. But I only have Molex connectors, which are right here. And these things are old. But of course, my computer just happened to come with it. So I just need to get an adapter for it. So this is the Molex connector. And I just plug it in because this is an adapter. So you stick it right in there, and then you're able to plug in this connector because it just goes right in, and it works very well. And even though this only has 2 pins, it still works because the 3rd pin is actually not necessary. And I'll just do those for the other 2. Shout out to ASUS for the best graphics card in the world. Even though it's not the most expensive and it probably isn't the best, I don't care because I bought it. So I'm going to put it in. Okay, everyone. So the graphics card is almost in, but it's not completely. I actually have to line it up with the holes, and it's like the RAM. So there are designated cut spots, so then you know exactly how to put it in. Right when you squeeze it in, then you know it's in right when you hear that click. Now is to screw in the graphics card. Also, I put in the front panel connectors, which actually help turn on the computer, but I edited that part out because it took a long time. So all I have to do is screw it in now. Alright guys, so I couldn't get the computer to turn on, but if you want to know what that looks like, make sure you check out my previous video. What my computer looks like has a couple views, so make sure you look at that. Also, now you know what the computer looks like, now you know how to build one. And if you liked the video, make sure you leave a like. If you didn't, leave a like. Either way, I could use the likes. Thanks for watching.